Good afternoon and welcome to our lunchtime webinar. And today we're going to talk about how do you decide the right platform for your target audience. So it's been a good few weeks where we've been running this 1 hour webinar every Friday, and I hope you're really enjoying it. And I'd like to thank our partners, Microsoft, who are working with us on this connected CMO campaign. And um, really the idea is to talk about modern marketing and all the choices in front of marketers, plus of course how can we use technology to make things better. So thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you've grabbed your lunch because I've got my soup and salad from Fresh Menu since you asked. And so we're just going to have this very informal discussion on this topic, which is how do you define the right platform for your target audience. So what are the elements of a marketing plan? And again, some of you might find this really basic, but I find it useful to just have a listing to make sure we don't forget any element. So whenever I do a consulting engagement, this is a little checklist that I start with. And I know that some of it is relevant for B2B and some of it is relevant more for B2C, but it's just really good to go through it and map it to your target audience and your objectives for your particular marketing campaign. So the messaging, obviously, it's very, very unique to your organization, service, or product. The media channels, well, there's a very, very wide range. And today we have to map, where your specific customers are going to be. Media relations, again, very fragmented space today. So you have to consider whether your particular audience is reading this really niche publication, and is it okay for you to be there? And do you want to go with own media or earn money media? So those are the discussions we need to have around that one. Influencers, again, map it to your target audience. Customer mining, so if we already have customers, then how do we stay in touch with them, increase engagement, increase their advocacy, and of course, how do we do cross-sell, upsell? What is the best platform to reach them? Now, typically, again, you would consider whether you want to use your own platform or whether we are going to use a third-party platform to reach our own customers. Thought leadership, what does it mean? Who do you need to reach out to? And what's the channel? Is it again going to be owned, third party, regular mainstream advertising, promotions, prospect mining? So how are we going to reach our prospects? How are we going to reach our partners? Again, surprising number of firms don't have a partner communication channel. They tend to go with ad hoc programs, so need to consider. And then events, one of my favorite things. I really think that a face-to-face meeting, virtual or offline, really helps to convert business, whether it's B2C or B2B. So these are the long list, and if I left out one you think should be included here, just ping me and we'll just talk about it in a bit. So what does a buyer cycle look like? I have to confess that this comes from the B2B heritage, so probably a little geared towards that, but we have used it for B2C clients as well, and it does work. So the first is it just maps it across the phases of the customer journey, the kind of content they look for, and then the marketing tools available to share that content. And this comes to the platform for your target audience. And I wanted to put this slide up front because it also means that the platform varies upon where the customer is in his life cycle, right? So he may start with coming through a third-party channel, an aggregator channel, but then you would want to move him to something you own, like a customer advisory board or an advocacy program. So that's really, a way to look at a portfolio of platforms that you would have to manage when it comes to reaching your target audience through the life cycle. And again, if you look at it as a lifetime relationship, then you would have to run a cycle of what do you say at which point on this particular platform. A very simple table which I find useful to write down, which is which are the media channels and are they going to be earned, paid, owned. For example, people do talk about organic PR, but in today's landscape, that is not available for every type of news, every type of organization. So if you are looking at earned, it makes sense to be realistic and see where are you actually going to get it. If it's paid, it makes sense to look at it and say, how much does it cost? Can I afford it? And is it legal for me to do this? If it is owned, it sounds amazing, but then you do have to invest in maintaining that particular channel. So again, it's useful to see what is the value you expect and what is the amount of investment you are willing to make in that particular channel. The table looks simple, but I'm really surprised at the kind of um, decisions that happen in this space, and invariably people saying that, I invested a lot in a PR agency and I didn't get anything from it. And realistically speaking, that they would not have succeeded with the kind of messaging that they had. So it's useful to put a number to it and then decide the right target audience and the right channel. So what are the promotional channels available to us again? So it all very context sensitive. So the same customer reacts differently to different promotions depending on where he is in his customer journey. So if you see this diagram, it has a little trolley coming along, and then the trolley is the goods are in his trolley, gets a discount, he's very happy. He comes home, he gets a discount, he's not going to be all that happy. And when the parcel comes home, it's broken, so he would not be happy at all. But then if he gets a gift item and it's fixed, then again, he turns happy. And if he gets a gift voucher after that, again, happy. And the gift voucher could be a coupon, it could be an email offer. It all depends on what state of mind he or she is in, and also what's the right way to reach them. So when he's in the shop, it might be a mobile or even a coupon, whereas if he's reached home, possibly mobile or email, or next day's newspaper. It could be any of these, and that's what makes it so interesting that we actually have to map out the offer hour by hour in his life cycle, because you actually do have some idea of where your prospect or customer is going to be. And if you look at B2B, again, we know exactly where the customer is in the life cycle. So what are the promotions and what's the best way? So often I find that, let's say you have an invitation to a dinner. You might say the best way to do this is to send them an email, but actually it could have been a great opportunity for your salesperson to show up and meet client in person and give a nice little card inviting them to dinner with the CEO. So sometimes, you also have to look at that. So um, in some cases, you have a trophy or a certificate to give your client. You may say the best way to do this is to courier it, but the reality again is that if you decide to deliver it in person, it has a very different response. So in each case, the media is the message also. So you need to sit down and say that what's the best way I can get impact for this particular activity? What's the best channel for me to do this? And there is such a vast array, and we had a listing earlier of all the channels available to marketers, and it just makes sense to sit down and say this works, that works, this one expensive, but I would do it for my top clients, and do that mapping just once, perhaps a year, to do your media plan. Let's look at prospect mining. Again, many of us run automated nurturing programs, but the kind of content available to us is a big pool. And I would say the content should be omni-channel. So it doesn't all have to be reaching out through digital media. It could be a combination of different formats of digital media and different formats of physical old world media as well. So we have the B2B buyer cycle to map that into content assets and then map that into multiple channels, and then decide what's the best way to reach this person with that particular content and which channel to use. Most of us actually do tend to think very digitally today, but I would like to remind you that in some cases, A hard copy will stand through the clutter. A personal visit is really welcome for closing. So do think through alternative channels. And again, the cost of some of the traditional media has really fallen. Also, your ability to target has really gone up because you could control the demographics, the time that people see your mainstream advertising, and therefore, you're addressing a much longer tail, and therefore your cost drops. So look at a nurturing program, but also look at it from the multiple channels. It could be in store, it could be inbox, it could be in person, and map the content accordingly to make sure that it works for the particular platform that you have chosen for that particular content. Um, People often ask me about remarketing, and that's why the slide is here. Um, I think our remarketing tools have really progressed. It's not as distinct as before, not as undistinctive as before, where you just had to search for toilet paper and you would be pursued for toilet paper ads for the next 6 months. It's different, but I did want to put in saying that there's a difference between retargeting and remarketing. So one is, the same message through new channels, and the other one is a new message through new channels. So it makes it a little different. And again, when we're doing a mapping of channels, it makes sense to consider, are we doing retargeting or remarketing? And one is, really to build awareness. So the other one is to persuade you to actually close the deal. What does the partner ecosystem look like? And I've done the listing. What should you do for each of them? How do you reach each of these partners? The channels are very different. Some are paid, some are owned. Often you may find it valuable to have a community for these partners. So do you have a mapping of the many partners that you operate with? And then do you also have a listing of the channels that are most appropriate for them? And then, of course, go back to a content bank and decide what you're going to put out when. So if there are any questions, you can just put them in the chat window as well, please. The last slide I had on this one was events. Often, not everyone considers events as a channel, but many people have been very successful with events, and I wanted to put that in as a channel because I personally have loved events, and I think even at a smaller budget, you could use this as a platform to punch above your weight and build awareness. And today with tech, you could gather a lot of data about people who participate in these events, and then you could integrate it into your CRM system or even a basic Excel sheet and start targeting them based on that. So this was the last element in the message in the platform bank that I had. And if you have any questions, you can either mail me or you can put it in the chat window. And as always, we will be sharing the recording as well as the deck with all of you. So thanks so much. And for those of you who haven't shared your email ID, we do really need that so that we can be in touch with you regarding the certification. So thank you all for joining me today for this short webinar, and I do hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.